Married, divorced, and single here, it's one family that mingles here.
Conservative and liberal here, we've all got to give a little here.
Big and small here, there's room for us all here.
Doubt and belief here, we all can receive here.
LGBTQ and straight here, there is no hate here.
Woman and man here, everyone can here.
Whatever your race here, for all of us grace here.
In imitation of the ridiculous love Almighty God has for each of us and all of us, let us live in love without labels.
Good evening. I'm Aaron, one of the pastors here. My Grandpa Bailey was a large man, a gentleman. As a kid, he seemed to me like a giant. But when I texted my dad this past week to ask how tall Grandpa was, it turns out that he was about as tall as my dad, and I'm about the same height. 5 feet, 12 inches tall. And yes, that's my dad's joke, not mine. My grandpa just seemed larger than life. He was a farmer, and later, in semi-retirement, he was a Pioneer seed corn sales rep. Farmers would call him up. He'd take out his Pioneer-branded notepad from the breast pocket of his Pioneer-branded shirt, and with his Pioneer-branded pen, he'd write down their order, while also wearing a Pioneer-branded hat. Yes, everything he owned seemed to be Pioneer green. He'd go out to the barn and set aside the bags of corn the farmer had ordered, and then he'd either load that order into his truck and deliver it nearby, or the farmer would come pick it up. And I would follow him around everywhere. My grandpa worked long hours, doing the really hard tasks that farmers do. But he had one passion in life that he shared with me and my cousins, one hobby, fishing. And sometimes he'd take me and my cousins with him. We'd wake up at the crack of dawn and pile in the pickup truck, probably without seatbelts, and drive the hour or so from Jasper, Michigan to Monroe, where we'd get into the boat on Lake Erie and putter out a ways from the shore, prepare our fishing lines, cast our line, and then wait forever. We'd spend all day in the scorching sun eating the sandwiches that my grandma had packed into, of course, the Pioneer-branded cooler, just sitting there for hours, maybe catching just a few walleye before returning home. As Jesus was walking beside the Sea of Galilee, he saw two brothers, Simon called Peter and his brother Andrew. They were casting a net into the lake, for they were fishermen. "Come, follow me," Jesus said, "and I will send you out to fish for people." And at once they left their nets and followed him. Going on from there, he saw two other brothers, James, son of Zebedee, and his brother John. They were in a boat with their father Zebedee, preparing their nets. Jesus called them, and immediately they left the boat and their father and followed him. Having fished with my grandpa, I can understand why Peter, Andrew, James, and John immediately dropped their nets and followed Jesus. They were bored out of their minds. Now, I adored my grandpa, but if some guy walked by while we were fishing and said, "Hey, come follow me," I would have done just that. No questions asked. Following some random dude with long hair and sandals would have been far more interesting than sitting around waiting for the fish to bite. I joke, of course. There's more to this calling than simply being bored. Matthew's account is brief. In Luke 5, we see in the same story that Peter and Andrew had been fishing all day without catching anything, and Jesus showed up, told them to cast their nets again, and they caught such a large number of fish that their nets began to break. They experienced a miracle. In John 1, we're told that Andrew and another disciple had spent the day with Jesus. I'm guessing that after spending a day with Jesus, we'd all want to follow him. He was larger than life. They saw the Messiah. But here's what struck me about these accounts of being called. The disciples didn't need to be qualified to do anything. They simply had to follow. Notice how Jesus doesn't first give those first disciples a job interview over coffee at Starbucks. He doesn't ask for their resumes. He doesn't call their references. He doesn't ask them to perform any pre-employment tests. Nope. He simply says, "Follow me, and I will make you fishers of men." Last week, Jen opened this sermon series by challenging us to think about how our talents could be employed to do what we as Christians are called to do, to love God and to love ourselves as we love, and to love our neighbors as we love ourselves. That's important, and I would challenge you to discern where your talents could be invested to help others. But tonight, I want to talk to you about how we as members of Left Hand Church can be generous with our time, both within this community and in the world, loving our neighbors. In Matthew 4, Jesus is showing us that we don't need to have specific talents to contribute. My first point here is that anyone can contribute their time, regardless of talent. We don't have to be rocket scientists or musicians, thankfully, because my singing voice is of no use to Heather Lynn here. No, we simply have to just show up. And really, even if you do contribute your talents, you still have to put in the time. You could be a world-famous angler, and without casting your line, you'd be nothing, really. Talent is important, yes, but acting upon that talent by spending time doing what you need to do is just as important. Exactly 1 year ago this hour, Left Hand became a church. Happy birthday, friends. We've seen dozens of volunteers help build this church over the 365 days we've been a community. We've seen volunteers like Rowan, age 6, and Bryn, age 3, who are eager to help us take down and clean up after left-hand services. Rowan especially loves to use the vacuum, which is twice his size. But what a remarkable thing to see them contribute their time in the way they can. Rowan and Bryn have no particular grown-up talents. They just have a cheerful willingness to help. Second, investing your time is a powerful way to love. Have you ever walked into a new church for the first time, unsure if you belong there, afraid you wouldn't fit in, wanting to bolt for the door after no one sat next to you? We're all here. We've all been here for the first time. So of course, yes, we have. Now imagine walking into Left Hand Church for the first time and being warmly greeted by Kate, who introduced herself to you. And imagine sitting down and being joined by Christy, who strikes up a conversation. Kate and Christy really didn't contribute any special talents. They're both very talented in their respective careers. However, in this case, they simply contributed their time, 30 seconds, 2 minutes, to making sure the new person felt loved in a scary space. One doesn't need to be talented to help us clean up after the service or to run slides. Running slides only requires your ability to push one button about 40 times in an hour. It only takes some time, but its impact is huge, loving your neighbor by creating a space to worship. Third, investing your time requires patience. To quote the lyrics of the most fabulous singer of the 20th century, "Time goes by so slowly for those who wait, no time to hesitate. Those who run seem to have all the fun. I'm caught up, I don't know what to do." If you don't know who sang that, you can look it up later. We humans seem to want to always run at full speeds to have all the fun, not sit around and wait, right? And yet, seeing something grow, like my grandpa's crops, takes patience. Patience is the flip side of time. Both need each other. As Left Hand Church grows into 2019, our second year as a community, I want to see immediate results. I want to see deeper connections overnight. I want to see the lost and wounded of Boulder County show up next week all at once so this church can be there for them. But time doesn't work that way, does it? All of this work requires patience. Patience and waiting. Patience simply being and doing what we're called to do. 2 years ago, as Jen, Paula, and I were discerning the formation of Left Hand Church, and working with our sister churches on the who's, the what's, the how's, the why's, and the when's, this type A, not yet a pastor entrepreneur, was impatient. I think actually we probably all were really impatient. We wanted this community formed in an instant. Surely that was possible, right? No, it doesn't work that way. Instead, this community formed more organically than I wanted. Jen's community dinners served as a slow cooker for natural connection. And what came out of those dinners and other efforts was beautiful. I challenge us, and by us I mostly mean me, to be more patient, to joyfully wait, and as Paula would say, to trust the flow. But why do we do all of this? Why are we called to give of our time and talents? Here's the thing. Investing of your time transforms the person giving. It transforms you just as much as the person receiving. Have you met John and Ev Mayer yet? They sit in the back, and my co-pastors and I have often remarked that their presence is powerful. When we look back and they aren't sitting there, a little bit of Left Hand Church seems to be missing. This past week, I discovered that John is a bit famous for his volunteer work as a patient ambassador at Longmont United Hospital. In 2017, John was named Denver Channel 7's Everyday Hero. When I asked John if I could quote the article announcing the honor, he said, sure, but the focus should be on Evelyn, the one who has always put up with me behind the scenes. That's the kind of man John is. Here's what he said to the reporter about his work of meeting and talking to patients in the hospital. One of the coolest things for me is when they ask me to come back. They're like, John, come back. We'll talk more. And then he said, that's like heaven. Giving his time and talents doesn't just transform those people he helps, but it transforms him. That's like heaven. John gets to experience the sacred by helping people in hospital beds. You get to experience the sacred by welcoming a visitor to Left Hand Church, or helping to prepare meals for the homeless, or vacuuming the floors after the service. Here's the thing, Left Hand Church. Jen, Paula, and I don't ask you to volunteer here because we need you to build a megachurch full of blind faith volunteers. That's not our goal. Can I get an amen? Yeah. Our goal is that we want to see you and others transformed. We want to see the city transformed. We want to see our country transformed. We want to see you experience the sacred while giving your time to others inside and outside of Left Hand Church. As we've said here at Left Hand over the past year, we are called to love God, to love our neighbors, and to love ourselves. Giving our time and talents is the most direct way we can do that. So, in 2019, as we enter our second year as a community, will you consider how you'll invest your time, both here at Left Hand and beyond? Now, in thinking through this sermon, I realized that your pastor of executive ministries, me, may have been a tad confusing when it comes to how you can sign up to volunteer here. So, if you allow me, I'm going to walk you through the logistics on how you can participate. First of all, you can simply start doing. Seriously, you don't need permission to help clean up after the service or to organize a group to go out to dinner after the service. You have our blessing to just start doing what is needed. If you want to be more intentional about how and when you volunteer, you can fill out a Connect card in the pews and check the Add Me to the Volunteer email list and drop that card in the offering bags. Or you can go to our website, click on the new Give button, and see the top section, Time and Talents. Starting this Monday and every Monday after that, we'll make this a little bit easier. We'll send out a really quick email with opportunities to invest your time and talents for that week and beyond in and outside of Left Hand Church. Open the email, see if you're able to fill any of the spots, click the link, and fill out the form. It really should only take 30 seconds or so. And that's it. And if any of this is still confusing, or if you're not online, grab me anytime, and I can help you sign up or answer any questions. So in 2019, how will you invest your time? Perhaps you can greet at the front door before service. Perhaps you can use your talents and time as a musician in trying out for the worship band. Perhaps you can volunteer at the hospital with John, or organize Left Hand's booth at Longmont Pride this year. Perhaps you feel called to help Kimberly with the kids downstairs every fourth week, or invest your time in Hope, Longmont's homeless outreach organization, or start a Left Hand small group for people over the age of 55. Perhaps you can commit to vacuuming the sanctuary after the church, but you're going to have to fight Rowan for the vacuum. Let's go.
I can change the world with my own two hands, make it a better place. With my own two hands, make it a kinder place. With my own two hands, with my own two hands, I can make peace on earth. With my own two hands, I can clean up the earth. With my own two hands, I can reach out to you. With my own two hands, with my own two hands. With my own two hands.
Gonna make a brighter place with my own two hands. I'm gonna make a safer place with my own two hands. I'm gonna help the human race with my own two hands. With my own two hands. With my own two hands.
I can hold you with my own two hands. I can comfort you with my own two hands. But you got to use your own two hands. Use your own two hands. Use your own two hands. With our own two hands. With our own two hands. With my own two hands.
Thanks again for watching today's sermon at Left Hand Church. If you live in Colorado and would like to attend, we meet on Saturdays at 5 o'clock. If you'd like to contribute to Left Hand Church, go to lefthandchurch.org/give. And if you'd like to send us a confidential prayer request, you can send it to prayer@lefthandchurch.org. Thanks again for watching.